There is no modern world without the internet. The internet has created a shift and completely changed how we live and communicate. Before the creation of the internet, people who live far from one another communicate through letters, which is inconvenient since it can easily be lost in the mail, or the fragile ink on the piece of paper simply did not survive the harsh weather. The internet was the work of dozens of pioneering scientists, programmers and engineers who each developed new features and technologies that eventually merged to become the information superhighway we know today. Long before the technology existed to actually build the internet, many scientists had already anticipated the existence of worldwide networks of information.
The internet actually got its start over 60 years ago, and computers back then filled up entire rooms. Scientists and researchers used it for years to communicate during the Cold War. It was useful because if one computer went down, the others wouldn't follow. The first practical schematics for the internet would not arrive until the early 1960s, when MIT's JCR Licklider popularized the idea of a network of computers that can talk to one another, also known as the Intergalactic Network of Computers. The first ever message was sent from one computer to another over the ARPANET, the Advanced Research Projects Agency network. One was located in a research lab in UCLA and the other was at Stanford. The message that was supposed to be delivered was login, but Stanford only received the first two letters before the system crashed. Communication through the internet is further advanced in 1971. Raymond Tomlinson was developing the first system to send mail back and forth between the users of ARPANET. This would eventually be called electronic mail, or email for short. Previously, mail could only be sent to others who used the same computer. To achieve this, he used the @ sign to separate the username from the name of their machine, a scheme which has been used in email addresses ever since.
The technology continued to grow in the 1970s after scientists Robert Kahn and Vinton Cerf developed Transmission Control Protocol and Internet Protocol, or TCP/IP, a communications model that set standards for how data could be transmitted between multiple networks. ARPANET adopted TCP or IP on January 1st, 1983, and from there, researchers began to assemble the network of networks that became the modern internet. The online world then took on a more recognizable form in 1990 when computer scientist Tim Berners-Lee invented the World Wide Web. While it is often confused with the internet itself, the web is actually just the most common means of accessing data online in the form of websites and hyperlinks.
By the end of 1990, Berners-Lee had developed the key technologies that are the bedrock of the web, including HTML for creating web pages, HTTP, a set of rules for transferring data across the web, and URLs, or web addresses for finding a document or page. The beginning of the web as a publicly available service on the internet arrived on August 6, 1991, when Berners-Lee published the first ever website. Fittingly, the site was about the World Wide Web project, describing the web and how to use it. The web helped popularize the internet among the public and served as a crucial step in developing the vast trove of information that most of us now access on a daily basis.
In the early 90s, companies were starting to provide a dial-up internet access. Dial-up is a method of connecting to the internet via a telephone line. There was a period when you can't use the telephone and the internet at the same time.
The next few years saw the launch of such websites as Yahoo 1994, Amazon 1995, eBay 1995, and Google 1998. By the time Facebook debuted in 2004, there were more than 51 million websites, according to the Internet Live stats. Today, we have the advancement of internet that helps us to communicate with people around the globe. We can chat or even have a face-to-face conversation through the internet-supported apps like Snapchat, WhatsApp, or FaceTime. In only 40 years, the internet developed from a system that could barely send 2 letters into a network that could return millions of search results containing billions of words in just seconds. In 1994, a Pizza Hut pizza was the first thing ever purchased on the net. And we've never looked back as computers shrink from our desk to our pockets and wrists, and as the internet connects not only to our families, but to our devices, houses, cars, and everything else.
What could possibly be next?